welcome back to another video. I know it's been a little while since I last posted. Life's been a little crazy, but today I finally have some time to get back to it. I appreciate everyone that has commented and subscribed thus far. You guys are awesome. Again, I really appreciate it. But today we're just going to dive right into it. And one of the things that you guys ask me about quite a bit is catch cans. How I got it to work and what I need to delete and what I need to do to get it to work. So I thought I'd do a quick video and show you guys how I'm going to do it. You can see the valve covers right there behind me. I've got a couple different sets. I've got the GTE set and I've got the GE set. Both of them will work how I did mine. The offset's a little bit on the top of the covers for the little ports, but I'll show you guys what I mean by that. So here you guys can see these are the GE covers. So it's got the 3000 on there. You can see the groove here. That's for the intake manifold. You guys are actually in for a little treat today. Because I have spare valve covers, I thought I'd just go ahead and drill them out, tap it out, show you guys how I did it. May not be the best way. Some of you guys would say I just drill it out, drill it bigger, weld in a bung. If you're like me, don't have access to a welder or to weld aluminum right now. I finally got my welder. It's just not hooked up yet, not ready to go yet. So for those of you that are in the same shoes that I'm in, and might not have access to the welder, we can drill it, we can tap it, and then you can just use threaded AN fittings that'll just screw into the valve covers, and then you can just use the AN fittings off of that and then plumb it however you want. So some of you guys might have something that looks kind of like this, and that is this, like I said, the GE setup, not the GTE. The GTE is a little different. You're going to have a charge tube here, charge pipe here that says 3000 on it, and that usually will cover from here to about here, and then you're going to have this will be kind of on this end. But like I said, this will all work the same. Your offsets, here's what I'm talking about. So I already went ahead and drilled one and I put it in the AN bung here. We'll go ahead and drill this one and tap that one out. And you can see over here on my car. So obviously I have that one cover off. The clean one, this one right here is the one that I'm currently running on my car that already has that on there. So I just pop it off so you guys can see what it looks like. And if you look, pop this back down on this, you can see the offset's a little different. So this one right here would be the GTE cover. You guys are probably like, why does it look weird? That's because I actually filled this section in. So it has the same kind of thing here. It's just further down. So it's about right here. I just filled this in so you can't tell. I like the clean, smooth valve covers. So we made them that way. And yeah, so what we're after is this right here. So you can see they are a little bit different from each other, but this should still work. So on the GTE versus the GE, like I said, your offset's going to be a little bit different. Your intake's going to be a little different. The throttle body's going to be a little different as far as positioning wise. The overall plumbing's going to be a little different. And I'll kind of show you, I'll mock it up here and kind of show you what it's going to look like. The GE one, I don't have the GTE set up. My car's on a GTE. I just have the valve covers, but you guys can look at it. Maybe I'll even post a picture here. And then you can kind of get a reference on what you need to do. But it should be pretty similar to what I'm going to show you here. It's just a quick little mock-up. It's obviously the positioning stuff's going to be a little bit different when it's actually on the car, but you guys might have something that looks similar to this. Now, this is the PCV hose that I had on mine, and it went like this. Okay, so it just kind of hooked in here, there, okay, and then onto this here. All this is doing, guys, is it's just taking the positive pressure inside the valve covers and it's just recirculating it back into the intake manifold. That's why people do catch cans, is because you're recirculating all that gunk that's inside the valve covers just right back into the engine. Especially with the turbo application, you don't want that crap going right back into the turbo. On the GTE, you might have something that looks like this. That's just the turbo inlet. Okay, so that hooks right on the front of the turbo. And one of these ports on here is actually going to go to the PCV. So that's going to recirculate and that's going to suck all this stuff out of the valve covers and it's going to put it right back through the turbo and back into the engine. It's all part of emissions or smog. If you guys have whatever emissions or smog, here in Utah we have emissions. I think California they're smog. I could be wrong. You don't need to correct me on that, but you guys get the point. So it's recirculating it. They don't want you to vent oil, vapors and stuff to the atmosphere, which is what I'm doing. Most people do it that way. It doesn't, I don't know. I mean, it could be debatable on whether or not it actually causes serious problems, but there's catch cans that are made that way for a reason. So instead of recirculating all that gunk back into your engine, you're putting it into a catch can and it's releasing the vapors. You have a filter on the top. I'm actually looking at my catch can right here. Actually, I'll show you. Mine's just a no-name brand. This is what it looks like here. Okay, so it's got the little breather on the top with the bungs on the front here. I'll show you what that's going to look like. Again, this is just like a cheaper one. It's got the drain on the bottom, and it works just fine. I've been running this in my car for quite a while now, and it hasn't had any problems. I'll probably run like a name brand one, like a Moroso, or however you say it, or maybe a Mishimoto, something that's a little bit nicer quality. Or maybe if I get going on welding, I'll just make my own catch can eventually. The difference here with some of the catch cans is they are baffled, meaning that the oil vapor, it'll turn from a vapor back to a liquid, and the vapors will be oily, right? So the vapors will all settle, and the oil will then settle on the bottom of the catch can. After a while, you do need to drain it. So if you let it sit, that catch can will fill up with oil, and then you're going to just cause problems for yourself. So then instead of this here, and I think this is the one for the GTE. I could be wrong. Like I said, guys, I've never had the GTE. I've never had a GTE motor. Mine's a GE. Swapped over to the turbo. So again, like custom everything. Okay, so this is not, you can even see there, it's not the GTE, it's the GE. So it is a little bit different. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this off. We've obviously already done this, but I'm showing you guys on your engine, your factory engine, you probably have like a little piece of rubber here, a little piece of rubber here, and a little piece of rubber there. This just plugs onto it, then plugs into this thing here. There's a couple little hose clamps, hold it in place. Just pull that guy off, set it to the side, preferably in the garbage can. This right here, so you can see how it's already threaded, and this one's obviously already threaded as well. These are just like press-ins. So almost like I did on my other video, this guy right here, which is this right here, it's just a press-in. So there's nothing really holding it in. You can just grab a pair of pliers. I don't recommend that. Maybe wrap it with a towel or something in case you need to reuse it. Pair of vice grips, kind of work it back and forth and up, and it'll just pop out. I guess if you really wanted to, you could just, those little barbs that stick up off the top of the valve covers, you could just get some like oil resistant rubber hose. You could just push those onto the fittings or to the little barbs, and then run those over to your catch can. That'd be the easy way out. It'd be simple. The only problem is those hoses will stick really high up. If you wanted to just put rubber hose on the little barbs coming up, the hose will come off the barb all the way up, and then it'll have to wrap down and then go to your catch can. So the hoses could potentially stick, you know, pretty high up, and it would look kind of goofy. But if you really wanted to do that, that's a simple way of doing all this. I just like the AN fittings because they seal, they can hold, you know, decent pressure, they don't typically leak. The rubber hose over time will crack, and it just doesn't look as cool as this. Now, before you guys start to panic and you're like, well, what about the intake manifold? What's that going to do? It's okay. You'll be fine. Just take a deep breath. I'll show you. It literally does nothing. It acts like a Venturi. If you guys don't know what that is, basically it's a vacuum. So it's before the throttle body. So it's basically just making a positive vacuum pressure, and it's drawing the vapors out of the valve covers into the intake manifold and just causing positive pressure that doesn't allow the vapors just to sit in the valve covers. So it's constantly pulling that through, and then it's sucking all that oil and stuff, all the gunk back through, and then recycling it back through the engine. With this thing sitting right here, okay, if you look inside this right here, it might be kind of hard to see. There's a hole right there. It's just that right there. Okay, that guy right there. And you can see it's before the throttle body. So what that's doing is that's creating vacuum pressure. When the throttle body opens, that is going to draw the fumes, the vapors, whatever, out of this through here, back into the intake manifold, back through the runners, and then back into your engine. Like I said, for you GTE guys, instead of pushing it back into the intake manifold, it's actually going to push it right back in front of the turbo. So that hose that I showed you right here, that's going to be like the hose that's on, or that little barb fitting that's on the valve cover. So that's going to be your positive pressure. That's going to be like the vacuum pulling it through. The turbo is going to act like the vacuum. The turbo is going to pull that stuff out of the valve covers, and then it's going to circulate it through the turbo, through the intercooler, and then back through into the engine. So that's why you run a catch can, because you're going to get all that crap inside your turbo, inside your lines, and yeah, that's why we do this. Okay, now this to the side. We don't need this anymore. So you don't have to drill anything. Oh, and then what you want to do with this, for my GE guys, just put a rubber cap on this. So all you're doing is capping that off. If you leave that open, you're going to have a vacuum leak, and you're going to have problems there, or it's going to act like a vacuum leak. So just put a rubber like cap on that, and then you should be good to go. Now, for those of you that are like, I'm so nervous about drilling these out, I will show you what it looks like on the inside on both of them. This is kind of like a baffle. Okay, so you're going to look at these. They're both pretty similar. You don't want to drill through this. Okay, so when you're drilling these out, be careful not to drill all the way through for this so you don't poke through that. It's not difficult. You can actually see the baffle right there. So that you're seeing the other side of that little guy right there. So when you drill that through, just make sure you stop so you don't punch a hole through this. What this does is that keeps the oil from just going right through the hole and then right through the hoses right through here. So what it's trying to do is it's trying to catch the vapor. It's not wanting to catch the liquid. It's not wanting to catch the actual oil. It wants to catch just the vapors that are moving through. So it is kind of baffled inside there. There's the little baffle right there. That's going to pull the vapors in through and then through that guy right there. Now, some of you guys watching this are probably like, dude, there's a whole science to it. PCV valves, all that kind of stuff. You're brushing over a lot. You're giving maybe a little bit of misinformation. I'm not an expert, okay? Again, I know what works on this car. I've had this set up on this car for a long time, and I haven't had any issues, okay? It's been working. From my understanding, if you don't get these ports big enough, so these guys right here, if they're too small, you're going to still build positive pressure inside the valve covers, which can be bad, right? So that can push past your seals in the pistons, that can push your dipstick out, it can do all sorts of stuff. So you want to make sure you're running a sufficient size hose for that. So that being said, we need to have something that's just bigger than this. Not anything super crazy. This thing is pretty small. I mean, you can see the size is pretty dinky. So I'm going to be jumping up a little bit in size, and this is the hose right here. So you can see, you might not be able to see in there, but this is a -8. I'm going from a small little, maybe like equivalent to like a -6, I guess, to a -8. So I am going a little bit bigger, and the fittings will be a little bit bigger. So hopefully I can get some of that crankcase pressure out. Guys, I'm talking in the future here. I've had this set up on my car for a while. It's worked great. I get great circulation. The catch can works great. I'll empty it out. It's pretty clean. The motor's got about 5,000 miles on the new build, maybe a little less than that. And when I go to empty that thing out, it's like just water. It's just clear. So with a little bit of oil, nothing crazy. So when you start your car up and it's cold outside and you guys see some of that condensation, that vapor coming out of your exhaust, think about that going through your valve covers. Okay, you're going to get the same thing in your valve covers, and then it's got to go somewhere. Instead, it's just circulating it back through the engine if you don't have a catch can. So that's why you do this. That's why you got to empty that, because you will get water, that condensation, that vapor, that water vapor inside the catch can. So you will need to empty that out. What we're going to do really quick, I'll show you guys how to do it, how I did it. There obviously could be better ways. Like I said, some people just do a weld-on bung here. This is obviously Gigantor, but that's what I mean by weld-on bung. Okay, it looks kind of like this. Obviously this is steel and this is gigantic, but it would basically go on like that. And then you'd weld around the valve cover, and then that way you wouldn't have to deal with any crush washers, which I'm dealing with on this. So what I did for the tap, I did a M12 by 1.25. You can do any size you want. I'm just trying to keep it close to what was on there, just going a little bit bigger. I already have this tap, that's why I went with a 12 by 1.25. You could go with like maybe an M14 by 1.25, an M12 by 1.50. You could do all sorts of different things. I just had this. I didn't want to buy another tap, so I just figured I'd utilize what I've already got. And these are actually pretty easy to find. I believe this one just came off Amazon. You can see it's pretty small, so this is going to be an M12 by 1.25 to a -8 AN. That's what's going to just thread right into the valve cover like that. And then you're going to get your 90 here. That's going to just go into that guy right there. So this has been since I've done this a little while ago. I can't remember exactly what drill size to use, but for an M12 by 1.25, I believe it's a 10.2 millimeter size drill bit. You can either mic it out, use micrometer on the tap size, drill something that's just a little bit smaller than the tap. Since this is aluminum, it will cut through okay with no problems. That being said, I would 100% remove these valve covers from your car. Try not to do this in the car because you're not going to catch all the pieces. There's no way. So if you think you're going to just do it quick, and I'd say cheap out, but you're not really cheaping out. Just do it quick and trying to avoid a lot of work. You're better off to pulling the valve covers. I know it's a pain. I pulled them off before. The GTE guys, I think you're a little bit better off because you only have to just remove that 3000 charge pipe and then you're right to your valve covers. My GE guys sucks, but you got to take that whole piece off, that whole intake intake manifold piece. That's got to come off to get access to those valve covers. So just do it. You'll be glad you did it in the long run. That way you can spray some brake cleaner or whatever through and get all those pieces out. The last thing you want for those to fall inside your valves. And make sure you take those valve covers off before you do this. Sure you're not cutting through into that baffle there. Then take your tap, same thing. You're just going to run the tap through and, you know, run it down, back it out, run it down, back it out. That way you're going to clean all the threads out on that. And then once it's done, pull that guy out, and then you'll have good clean threads for your fittings there. And then when you put this on, or when you go to put it in, if you buy the right fitting here, it'll come with a crush washer. If not, just get a copper crush washer. That's going to keep the oil from coming out around this. I still get a little bit. You guys can see it's kind of oily around this. Occasionally I'll have to wipe it off, but nothing crazy. That'll just go there. Then the fitting will go on top, and then you'll tighten that down. And that'll crush the washer, and that makes your oil seal. Also, I know from the video it looks a little small, but if you actually compare it to the fitting here, they're almost the same size. Okay, it's a little bit smaller, so I mean I could go bigger on this if I want to. Like I said, it has been working for me so far. I'm not too worried about it. If I start to see excess pressure or I start to run more boost, I'm going to probably run into some issues with this, and I'll be redoing this. I've got plenty of material here that can drill this out to a bigger fitting. So, and I'd probably still run an 8AN just with a bigger port here. So you can see it's going to be tapered down to that size there. So probably not ideal, but it works and it's fine so far. Okay, just got the valve cover chucked back on here. This is, you guys can see the paint coming through here for the previous marking, the factory markings on here. I plan on getting both of these powder coated, and I still have to cover this one up so it matches this cover here. I actually have a GTE cover I'm going to replace that one with. But then a quick little like tip, guys. These bolts, the factory ones, put blue Loctite on those before you torque them down. These will always come up by themselves. I don't know why, and I could never figure out why. I was getting oil all over inside the galleys, so oil will run out along here and go down into the spark plug galleys, and it's super frustrating. So put some blue Loctite on these before you put them in, and then torque them down. You should be good to go. Okay, and then I got the hoses thrown back on there. I like the nylon braided stuff. It just looks cleaner. It's easier to work with than like the stainless steel braided stuff. But I did 8 AN90s to straight 8 ANs. And those will match up to these ones here. So I still have to mount this. I took it out to put these new fittings back in here. Now I just got to put this back in its place. And it is actually going to sit right inside here. So I just need to build some tabs to hold that in there. And then that'll come over here. It clears the gas closer for the hood. And I'm set. And just again for my GTE guys, just to kind of go back over it. Make sure you put those rubber plugs over any of the ports that you're not using anymore for the catch can, since you just don't want to leave those open since you're not utilizing them anymore. So they need to be plugged up. But it's super easy, guys. It's not super difficult to figure out. It'll be the same for any car. Most cars have the PCV system in it. They've got to keep the vapors and the pressure out of the valve covers. So this doesn't just pertain to Supras. It can be to anything. So if you're planning on doing a catch can, do it. That way you're not just sucking in that old recycled crap back into the engine, coating the intake manifolds and getting a bunch of gunk in there. And yeah, it just turns into a mess. So run a catch can, super easy to install, pretty straightforward. Okay guys, well that's pretty much it for today's video. It's a quick one, but it is one that a lot of you guys have been asking me about. So I thought I'd just hurry and quickly to, put it out there for you so you can at least see a little update on the car. I haven't been driving it. I know, weird. You guys are probably like, oh, there's a common theme here. You're never driving your car. The tuning stuff is actually pretty involved. It's a little more involved than I thought, than we were expecting. So it actually fired up and it ran on the new ECU Masters ECU. It only ran for a couple of seconds and then it died, and so I think we're off on timing, so we're going to look at that. But everything so far looks like it's running pretty well on what we're at. So I just gotta figure out that timing issue and figure out why it's cutting off on itself. It'll run for about 5 to 8 seconds and then it just shuts off. So we're still diagnosing that, looking into it, but it's here. I haven't done any videos because it's like kind of just lame. Like, you guys don't really want to know that I'm like plugging stuff in the computer and then trying to get it to run. Like, you guys don't care. I promise. It's not that exciting. Once I have it running, I will then do a video and run through everything with you guys, show you what I did, because there is some stuff for my GE and GTE guys out there. If you're running ECU Masters, there's some stuff you probably want to know. Internet's not always 100% true. I know, it's kind of crazy, right? But there are some things that I've had to figure out on my own that I'm like, that's actually not what the internet has told me. This is completely different. And it's actually not that big of a deal. But there's a lot of misinformation out there, guys. And some of it may actually be coming from me, because I think I know what I'm talking about, but I really don't. But yeah. So like I said, guys, everything that I share with you is all stuff that I've experienced. Things that I've figured out on my own that have worked for me. Real life stuff. Not just like, oh yeah, I can type it up on the computer and this is how it does it. This is how it works, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, I've actually like gotten in here and I figured out what works and what doesn't work. And then I'm just sharing that with you guys. So is there a better way to do things? Absolutely, guys. 100%. There's always a better way to do something cleaner, more efficient. But if you're like me and you're in your garage and it's cold outside on an almost winter day and you're like, I just want to build my car how I want to build it, dude, go for it. Just figure it out. It's not a big deal. But that being said, guys, again, I really appreciate everyone that's been subscribing. I know I'm like, if you follow me on Instagram, I'm like, 1,000 subscribers, sweet. That's actually pretty cool, guys. Like, I'm not gonna lie, 1,000 of you guys actually care to watch my videos. That's pretty cool. I'm like 1,022 now, which is pretty cool. 23 maybe. But that's cool. That's awesome, guys. I appreciate that. It just shows that you guys are interested in my videos. I know they're not super great. I know there's things that I miss, but at least they're helping you guys. That's the whole point behind the videos here, is I've had to figure everything out on my own. Why not share that with you guys? If you're getting into the Supras, you're sticking with the GEs, you're like me and you're like, I can't afford a 2JZ right now. 1JZs they're so expensive right now. Sticking with the 7M GE of all motors, you know, you guys are like, yeah, GE, no GTE, GTE suck. Like, I get it, guys. It's cool. Like, I know, it's awesome. It's a great motor. Some people will sit and argue with me, GTE or 7Ms are garbage. Well, it's like, it's a motor. Just have fun with it. Tinker with it. That's the whole point behind this. We're not looking to like get out there and make shame of people, right? Like, we're just trying to have fun. We want our cars to be cool. If you can afford a 7M and that's what came in your car, you can't do anything else, dude, I get it. Like, that's where I'm at. That's why I've just kept going on this motor. It's been fun. It's kind of a challenging project. You know, I could have just as easily put a 7M, or sorry, a 2JZ in, or a 1J, did a harness swap, called it good, run down the road, whatever. I chose not to. I chose to keep the 7M. I think it's cool to keep the original motor in there. Yeah, I may have gone above and beyond with like doing the intake manifold and the turbo manifold and stuff, but like, it's cool. It's fun. So, but that being said, guys, for my Supra guys out there, or anyone that's just watching the channel, then you guys are like, well, someday I'll have a Supra. Like, hit me up. If there's something you guys want to know, I say this in every video. If there's something you guys want to see with my car, let me know. I will do a video of it. I've got a whiteboard. I've got a whole like list of things just for you guys. But there's things that I miss. Like, there's things that you guys are like, oh, I would like to see this. Put it down in the comments. Like, let me know. I check the comments. Trust me. Like, if I can, I respond to all of you. I've responded to most of you. But I'm happy to help any way I can. It's a community. I'm here to just work it through with you. If there's a problem, like, and maybe I don't know it, I'm down to try to figure it out with you. So there's always gonna be something coming up with these motors or with the car in general. So with that being said, guys, I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Comment, subscribe. You guys know how the whole YouTube thing works. I really appreciate it. Can't iterate that enough. You guys are awesome. So, and yeah, maybe we'll see you guys on the next one.